Do you have any funny stories from the early days of email?
Yes, I do have a funny story about the early days of email. Nobody cares about what a good writer you are and how well you can pontificate on your ideas. Let me explain. When I was a young therapist, I used to send these like ultra long, I call them brick emails. Like I would send these ultra long emails and be citing these papers and like inspiring. And I'd have like a Gandhi quote at the end. I would fall in love with my own creation and I would take forever writing these emails and nobody would respond. So these are the early days of emails where you're not getting like a ton of emails. So even think like maybe people at that time were getting like 10 emails in a day and nobody's responding to my emails. And not only was nobody responding to my emails, I'd ask people about my emails and they'd be like, oh, I didn't even read it. And one day, I was getting like deeply offended, like, how dare you? And one day I asked my boss, I was like, how come nobody's reading my emails? And he was like, dude, your emails suck. He's like, nobody wants to spend the time reading them. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I could just like feel you like enjoying your own intellectual flex through your own email. And it's just a huge turnoff. It was like the amount of time you spent writing that, you could have written like 15 emails. You probably could have had 3 phone calls. Nobody cares how smart you are. Nobody cares how well you can put together a sentence, how dramatic, how inspiring. People just want the information and they just want it in a really usable and easy way. You don't send good emails because your emails are about you. They're not about your audience. This is like early days of email. And I was like, oh, and of course I was like, oh, this person's wrong. And I had to learn the hard way that writing is such a wild thing because you can have a personal relationship with people, you can have a professional relationship with people, but you can also have a writing relationship with people. And if you're someone who consistently sends massive, super clogged emails that are hard to read, people go into scan mode, they've got tons of attachments, you're forming a type of relationship where no one's going to read your email or very, very few people. And if they read it, they're going to instantly go into scan mode. So the old days of email, people used to write in a much more formal style where there's tons of structure and they were long and they were bulky. And I was a victim of someone who came up basically when the transition from like writing things like on paper or in interoffice memos where they're typed out into being on the internet, and I didn't know how to flex that. I also just got caught up in like the wonderful idea of that like everything I think needs to be in an email and had to like really be challenged on that. So email is an evolving practice. It's a like as a society we haven't caught up with our communication style hasn't caught up with the speed that communication is evolving. The thing I got to encourage anyone here, first of all, whatever mistake you've made, I have made 10,000 times over. The reason I started this company and the reason it's been able to grow and build is because most of the things that we teach from a communication space are things that I've eaten shit on a million times. And in fact, I was so bad at it, including my writing, I had to build my own system to get good at because nobody was teaching me how to do it. I was just getting tons of bad feedback, like you suck at this, you're not good at this. But no, there was no books out, there was no YouTube at the time, there was no email courses. So I basically was like, well, how do I do this better? I created my own system and I did it. And then I trained myself. So I was able to parlay that into a company. So whatever bad feedback you've gotten, I have probably made that mistake 8,000 times. But here's the thing. What are you going to do about it? I'm sorry. Nobody cares about how masterfully you can write a paragraph or how deeply you can explain things. They care about how you can talk about things to them, but they don't want you to write long. They want you to write short and precise. And the easiest way to think about it, if your email is more than 3 paragraphs, the likelihood that it's being read line for line is very, very, very short. If you're writing in sentences that are more than 22 words of length, the likelihood that people are digesting your whole sentence is very, very, very short. If you're adding a ton of attachments, they're probably not ever even going to be opened. The best way to do things, write short, keep to the facts, keep it super sparse, very, very targeted, and do most things over the phone or in person or over Zoom. Communication is best done when you've got the space and time to explore things and really like get into ideas. Outside of that, in a written format like a email, it's best to keep it super tight, really, really fact based and easy to use. Think of the end user. Don't think of the artistic piece that you're putting together.